It was early Monday morning. Senator Cruz first announced online and then told a jam-packed crowd at the Christian Liberty University that he is running for president. The first-term senator laid out a vision consistent with his conservative beliefs, and the media pounced, questioning him and his viability as a candidate. From the Washington Post, Ted Cruz, principled or smug know-it-all? In the New York Times, why Ted Cruz is such a long shot. And even overseas, Britain's The Guardian saying Ted Cruz is one U.S. presidential hopeful we can write off now. Thanks for that, Guardian. And that was nothing compared to what's been said on television. Watch.
I think he's scary. I think he's dangerous. I think he's slimy.
Well,
I think he brings no fresh new ideas.
I have a problem with Cruz because I'm old enough to remember, even though I was a kid, what McCarthy was all about. Right. Now, he was Mr. Division. He accused people of being communists. Here's this character accusing Chuck Hagel of taking $200K from the North Koreans, accusing Obama, the President of the United States, of being under communist influence because he went to Harvard Law.
In your short time in the Senate, you've developed a reputation as a guy who does not back down, who will not compromise. Will you bring that brand of no compromise to the White House if you're elected?
How are you, with that hardline conservative message, going to appeal to moderates and independents?
Joining me now, Texas Senator and presidential candidate Ted Cruz. Scary, dangerous, and slimy. The Guardian declaring you are done 48 hours after you have declared. And to that you say...
Well, look, there's nothing like the warm embrace of the mainstream media. And I have to say, I think one of my favorite comments was the New York Times said in the last day that Cruz cannot be nominated because the Washington elites hate him. And I have to admit, my immediate thought was, holy cow, do I have to disclose that to the Federal Elections Commission as an in-kind contribution? I mean, I can't think of a better summary of why I'm running. If you're looking for a candidate embraced by the Washington political elite, I ain't your guy.
Mm-hmm. But what about the Wall Street Journal? Because they're not exactly left-wing pundits. And they came out this morning with a piece comparing you to then-Senator Obama, suggesting, as Charles Krauthammer did, we've already tried the one-term senator thing, and in their view, it didn't work out so well.
Well, look, there have been a lot of folks throwing that attack, and I've got to say there are marked differences between my background and Barack Obama's. We're both first-term senators.
Both went to Harvard.
We both went to Harvard, but there are marked differences. In his time in the Senate, he was basically a backbencher. He did not lead on any issues of real significance. In my time in the Senate, there are a lot of faults I have, but nobody would accuse me of being a backbencher. What I've tried to do is lead on the great challenges of the day, whether it's stopping Obamacare or stopping the out-of-control debt or stopping executive amnesty or defending our constitutional rights or standing with Israel or stopping Iran from getting nuclear weapons. But secondly, Megyn, unlike Barack Obama, before the Senate, I wasn't a community organizer. I spent 5.5 years as the Solicitor General of Texas, the chief lawyer for the state, leading the state in appeals before the U.S. Supreme Court, leading every appeal for a 4,000-person agency, over 700 lawyers, and over again, we led and won national conservative fights, defending the Ten Commandments and winning, defending the Pledge of Allegiance and winning, defending the Second Amendment and winning.
But on your time in the Senate, this is what some of your critics point to. They say, yes, you've led the fight on certain issues, but what have you actually accomplished?
What we've accomplished over and over again, in many instances, is stopping bad things from happening. Remember the beginning of the second term of Obama, we had the horrible shooting in Sandy Hook. And President Obama didn't come out and say, let's go target violent criminals, which is what he should have done and how we could have brought together bipartisan agreement. Instead, he used it as an excuse to go after law-abiding citizens. And much of Washington was consigned, we can't stop this, the train is moving, get on board. I did everything I could to energize and mobilize the grassroots, to stand up and protect the Second Amendment, and every single proposal of Barack Obama to undermine the Second Amendment was voted down on the Senate floor.
But how do you, when you're the leader, when you're the president, you have to bring coalitions together to get things through. You can't just be somebody who stops things. You actually have to be somebody who gets things through.
Well, you've got to do both. It's interesting. In the last 2 years, virtually nothing passed the Senate. Harry Reid and the Democrats basically shut the Senate down. But as a freshman senator, I had more legislation pass the Senate than all but a handful of Republicans. For example, when Iran named Hamid Abudulabi, a known terrorist, to be their ambassador to the United Nations, he had participated in holding Americans hostage. Almost everyone in Washington wrung their hands and said, there's nothing we can do. I filed legislation to block Abudulabi and other known terrorists from coming to this country. It passed the Senate 100-0. It passed the House of Representatives 435-0. And President Obama signed it into law.
And not only that, but you can say Hamid Abudulabi, just like it just flows off the tongue. You should get points for that, too.
You know, for my daughters, that's a good tongue twister.
I mean, for all of us, it's amazing. And I should say Senator Cruz's wife and his two beautiful daughters are here in the studio, and it's been a very long day for you. So I apologize for bringing up Rand Paul in front of them, because they may be up against each other. But he was on the program last night, as you know, and he likes you and said he doesn't disagree with you on most things. But he said, I'm paraphrasing, I'm kind of like the Ted Cruz who can win, who can appeal to a broader group. And we're hearing that more and more. You know, can you appeal beyond the conservative base, as the Wall Street Journal again this morning points out, citing GOP pollster, Ayers, who says even if the GOP nominee in 2016 carries the same share of the white and the minority vote as George W. Bush did in 2004, he would lose, and handily. You need to expand the coalition.
Well, let me say a couple of things. So that, number one, listen, Rand Paul, I like Rand Paul. He's a friend of mine. I respect him. We fought side by side for liberty. We'll keep fighting side by side for liberty. You know, what I can tell you, when I got elected to the Senate from Texas, we saw a coalition come together. We reassembled the Reagan coalition. We brought together conservatives and libertarians and evangelicals and women and young people and Hispanics and Reagan Democrats.
But all those people are now being told that you're scary, dangerous, and slimy. I mean, this is what you're up against.
But they were told that in the Texas Senate race, too. And, you know, in Texas, I won 40% of the Hispanic vote at the same time that Mitt Romney was getting clobbered with 27% of the Hispanic vote.
Now they say you can't win the Hispanic vote because of your tough stance on immigration. What do you say to that?
Well, listen, when I ran for Senate in Texas, I was unequivocally against amnesty. I think there's a lot of bipartisan agreement. We got to secure the borders, we should reject amnesty, and we should improve and streamline legal immigration. There's no greater advocate of legal immigration in the Senate than I am. But I'll tell you, Megyn, if you want a quick indication of the support we're seeing, the incredible grassroots support, it's been 36 hours since we launched the campaign. In the first day, over 140,000 people have come to our website, tedcruz.org. In the first day, we've raised over $1 million. In one day.
Is that how much? I thought it was $500,000. It's gone up to $1 million.
Well, the number that was reported, $500,000, was only halfway through the day. It's been $1 million in the first day. Now, all of the talking heads in Washington say Cruz can't raise money because the big lobbyists in Washington aren't with him. He opposes corporate welfare. He opposes all of the crony capitalism. Our campaign is based on courageous conservatives across this country, men and women going to tedcruz.org and contributing, and that's where we're getting the support.
I got to go, but I want to ask you two quick questions, and so I need quick answers if you could. What do you like best about yourself that makes you think that you could hold this job of president?
I love the Constitution, and I am fighting for freedom. I mean, I wake up every day, I jump out of bed. I cannot tell you how thrilled I am, because this country is in crisis, and what an incredible privilege to be in the arena. I look at my little girls.
You say it's a privilege. I think you have to be a little nuts. I mean, you have to be a little nuts to want this job. And so that leads me to my next question, which is, I mean, thank God we have crazy people who want it. What is it about yourself that concerns you? What do you like least about yourself that may concern you on the journey going forward?
Well, listen, this is going to be an intense battle, and I take everything pretty intensely. I take everything, questions of liberty and the Constitution, very seriously. Now, you got to have a sense of humor. You got to be able to crack a joke.
Do you get stressed out? Do you do like meditation? What do you do?
You know, to be honest, I don't get stressed out. The more intense something gets, the calmer I get.
Really?
And part of it is you got to have fun. So, quick example. 6 months ago, I was out in California, and this poster appeared all over California of my head, shirtless, ripped body, covered in tattoos, an eagle, 6-shooters, and Winston Churchill, a cigarette coming out of my mouth, and the legend Blacklisted and Loving It. We decided to have fun. We posted it on Facebook. And we said, for some reason, these posters have begun appearing all over Hollywood. It had nothing to do with us. We've noticed a glaring error. I don't smoke cigarettes.
And Heidi told me before the show that actually she was responsible for that, so that's really, the joke was on you, as it turned out.